The last rescue boat had room for one more person. My wife looked at me. Then looked at her ex-husband's son. Get off. For a second, I thought I had misheard her over the wind. Rain slammed sideways across the flooded intersection. Somewhere behind us, a transformer exploded blue against the black sky. Water had swallowed the first floors of half the houses on Harbor Street, and the current running between them was strong enough to carry patio furniture, trash cans, and once, 10 minutes earlier, an entire propane tank. I was already sitting inside the boat, bleeding, shivering, and my wife wanted my seat. Mara? Fire Chief Mara Keene grabbed the gunwale. Owen, I need Noah on this boat. Noah Vale stood waist-deep beside her. 17 years old. Barefoot. Gray with cold. Terrified. None of that was his fault. I need to make that clear. Noah had not asked me to get off. He had not demanded my seat. He was a kid standing in hurricane floodwater after being pulled from the second floor of his father's house. The person making the choice was my wife. I looked toward the stern. Boone, how many? Captain Ellis Boone counted again even though we all knew. 10 plus crew. The rescue skiff was rated for 12 under ordinary conditions. Tonight was not ordinary. We had one firefighter at the controls. Boone in the bow. 9 evacuees. Me. That made 12. Noah would make 13. Waves were already washing over the side every time the wind shoved us broadside. Boone looked at Mara. Chief, we can come back. No. Her answer was immediate. This is the final run before we close harbor sector. National Guard high water trucks are supposed to be coming from Route 9. Supposed to be. Mara looked at me again. You can wait with the engine company. I almost laughed. The engine company was 2 exhausted firefighters standing beside a half-submerged ladder truck whose engine had died 40 minutes earlier. Their portable radio battery was fading. The nearest dry staging area was almost a mile west. And the water was still rising. I lifted my right hand. Blood had soaked through the towel wrapped around my palm. You remember this? It's a cut. 6 stitches minimum. You're conscious. That's your triage standard? Her face hardened. That expression had ended arguments in fire stations for 11 years. It used to work on me too. Before tonight. Noah is a minor. I know. He's been isolated for 6 hours. So have half the people on this street. Owen. There was something in her voice now. Not chief. Not quite wife either. Fear. Personal fear. Because Noah was not just another teenager trapped by Hurricane Felix. He was Adrian Vale's son. And Adrian Vale was the man Mara had once planned to marry before she met me. They had never completely disappeared from each other's lives. Noah was the excuse that made continued contact reasonable. Birthday messages. School problems. Emergency pickups. Football games when Adrian was traveling. At first, I respected it. A kid should not lose a trusted adult because relationships between adults changed. Then over the years, Mara's concern for Noah became one of those things I was never allowed to question. If Adrian called, she answered. If Noah needed something, she found a way. And if I looked uncomfortable, I was making a child pay for adult insecurity. Tonight, the child really did need help. That still did not explain why I had to be abandoned to provide it. Boone tried again. Chief, Owen's already loaded. I can see that. We have a priority list. I know the list. One of the evacuees, an elderly woman wrapped in a silver emergency blanket, looked between us. Nobody wanted to speak. Mara was the fire chief. I was her husband. And this was no longer sounding like an operational discussion. I asked. Where's Adrian? Her eyes flicked toward me. There. Too fast. Mara. He was evacuated earlier. How much earlier? About an hour. I stared at her. You put Adrian on a boat and left Noah? He was unconscious from a head injury. That changed things. Slightly. Where is he? County Medical. Does he know Noah is safe? I don't know. So call him after Noah boards. Owen, stop. Stop what? Making this harder. The wind screamed over the roofs. Behind Mara, Noah looked miserable. Mrs. Keene. Mara turned. It's okay. I can wait. No. I'm serious. You are getting on this boat. He looked at me. I don't want him left because of me. That was the first moment I almost volunteered. Almost. If Mara had asked me as my wife, "Owen, please. I'm scared for him. Can you help me figure this out?" Maybe I would have. I had been a Coast Guard bosun's mate in my 20s. I could swim. I understood flood currents better than most civilians. I also knew the surrounding streets because my company had been supplying marine equipment to Bayhaven for 15 years. Maybe I would have decided I was the safer person to leave. But Mara did not ask. She ordered. That distinction changed everything. "Noah," I said, "this isn't your fault." Mara snapped. "Don't involve him. I'm trying to keep him from thinking he pushed me out of a boat. He didn't." "No. You did." Boone stepped closer. "Chief." She ignored him. "Owen, get off." The words landed cleanly this time. No ambiguity. I looked at the firefighter operating the boat. Young guy named Marcus Hill. His jaw was tight. He did not look at me. He could not challenge his chief in front of evacuees without turning an ugly moment into command chaos. So I made the decision for him. I stood. Pain shot through my left ankle. Mara noticed. "What's wrong with your leg?" I almost admired the timing. "You didn't ask before." Owen twisted it when Mrs. Alvarez's porch collapsed. "How bad?" "I can walk." That was enough for her. She stepped aside. I climbed out. Floodwater hit my thigh. Cold. Much colder than it had felt 20 minutes earlier. Noah did not move. Mara took his arm. "Get in." He looked at me again. "I'm sorry. You don't owe me anything." He boarded. Boone looked furious. "Chief, I'm staying." Mara shook her head. "No. You're boat officer. I can stay with Owen." "You're boat officer. Then Hill stays." "No." Her voice sharpened. "This boat returns to Station 2. We are not sending another crew into harbor after this." Boone stared at her. That meant she knew exactly what she was leaving me with. 2 firefighters. A dead engine. A deteriorating weather window. No guaranteed second rescue. Mara stepped into the boat. I thought she was going with Noah. Instead she stopped. Looked at me. For 1 second, the chief disappeared. My wife was standing there. "I'll get someone back to you." I laughed. "You just said nobody's coming back. National Guard will reach this sector." "You hope." "Owen. Go." Her face changed. "I mean it. Get Noah out." I did not want the kid sitting in that boat thinking his rescue was the reason our marriage was cracking open. The firefighter hit the throttle. The skiff pulled away. Mara remained standing near the launch point. She was staying. For 1 brief second, that surprised me. Then I realized why. Her command SUV was on higher ground 4 blocks north. She could make it back to emergency operations with the engine crew. She had options. I didn't. The rescue boat disappeared around the corner. And something inside me went quiet. Not furious. Not heartbroken. Just quiet. Mara turned toward me. "Let me see your hand." I pulled it away. "No. Don't be childish. Not medical advice I accept from you anymore. This is an emergency." "Yes. So act like it." That almost made me smile. "You first." Her face tightened. Before she could answer, one of the firefighters shouted, "Chief!" Water surged across the intersection. A section of wooden fence came spinning around a parked SUV. All 4 of us moved. The next 20 minutes erased the argument. A family of 3 appeared at an upstairs window. We moved them through an adjoining house to higher ground. A utility pole cracked. We abandoned the dead engine. The water rose another 6 inches. Mara became Fire Chief Keen again. Good at it too. Decisive. Calm. Focused. That was part of what made everything harder. She was not incompetent. She was not a monster. She had made one deeply personal decision inside a night filled with hundreds of professional ones. And that decision had been me. At 11:18 p.m., her radio crackled. National Guard convoy was delayed. Route 9 bridge had debris damage. No vehicle access to harbor sector. Boone's rescue boat had already reached Station 2. No marine unit returning. Mara looked at me. The first real fear entered her face. "Okay." I laughed once. "Still think I'm being dramatic? We'll move north on foot. With Mrs. Alvarez and the Watkins family?" She looked toward the second floor where we had sheltered them. "No. Exactly. We could not leave them. So we stayed. Midnight. 1 a.m. 2. The storm surge peaked sometime after 2:30. By then, the first floor was almost completely underwater. My hand had stopped bleeding. My ankle had swollen badly enough that I could no longer put full weight on it. Mara tried twice to examine it. I refused both times. At 3:06, a sound cut through the storm. Diesel engines. Not National Guard. I knew those engines. Mara knew them too. White lights appeared through the rain. 3 aluminum shallow-draft boats came around the corner in formation. Black hulls. Orange cabin lights. The Harbor Line Marine Services logo on the side. My company. My cruise. Mara stared. How did they get clearance? They didn't need yours. The lead boat stopped at the porch. My younger brother, Caleb Keene, stood at the controls. He took one look at me. Then at Mara. Then at my hand. What happened? Long night. His face hardened. We heard City Rescue closed this sector. They did. And left you? Mara stepped forward. Caleb. He ignored her. That was new. My brother had always respected Mara. Not tonight. We came through the industrial canal, he said. Company yard stayed above surge. We've got 6 boats running. I looked past him. Harbor Line had been doing exactly what it was built to do. Marine salvage. Storm recovery. Port support. Emergency transport. My grandfather started it with 1 tugboat. My father expanded it. Caleb and I owned it equally now. For the last 6 years, Harbor Line had also supplied Bayhaven Fire Department with something the city never could have afforded on its own. 2 shallow water rescue boats. 3 trailers. Portable pumps. Fuel storage. Maintenance. Training access to our marina. Not because of Mara. The partnership started before she became chief. But after she got the job, I expanded it. Personally. No profit. No publicity. Just equipment. The boat that had left me behind? Harbor Line owned it. The city used it under a renewable emergency services lease for $1 a year. Caleb climbed onto the porch. He lowered his voice. Owen, I need to talk to you. About what? The marina. Mara looked toward us. Caleb glanced at her. Then back to me. Adrian Vale was there yesterday afternoon. I froze. What? At our operations yard. Why? Said Chief Keene authorized him access to inspect emergency inventory. I turned slowly toward my wife. Her face changed. Caleb continued. He photographed equipment tags. Fuel storage. Boat numbers. Did you let him? Manager thought he was city authorized. We checked after the storm hit. He pulled his phone from a waterproof pouch. There's more. Mara said. Caleb, this can wait. No. My brother's voice was flat. It can't. He showed me an email. Sent by Mara 3 days earlier. To Harbor Line's yard manager. Please extend Mr. Adrian Vale full temporary access to Bayhaven emergency marine assets this week. He is assisting me with continuity planning and may coordinate directly on my behalf. I read it twice. Adrian was not a city employee. Not a firefighter. Not an emergency management contractor. He owned Vale Coastal Development. A private construction company. One currently bidding on storm recovery work across the county. I looked at Mara. What exactly did you give your ex access to? She said nothing. Mara. He was helping me plan private equipment contingencies. With my company's equipment? We needed more boats. So you gave him access. I thought you'd agree. You didn't ask. There wasn't time. The email was 3 days ago. She stopped. Caleb looked between us. What else did he see? Mara swallowed. Probably the availability schedule. Fuel? Yes. Maintenance records? I don't know. Crew rosters? I don't know. My anger finally arrived. Not because Adrian's son had taken my seat. Not even because Mara had ordered me out. Because while I had spent years telling myself her relationship with Adrian was only about Noah, she had quietly begun letting him into my business. My assets. My employees. My emergency network. And tonight, when the city's system failed, the same private network she had treated as hers came back into the flood to rescue us. Caleb asked. What do you want me to do? Mara looked at me. Owen, don't make decisions tonight. That sentence almost broke me. After everything. She still thought she got to tell me when I was allowed to decide. I looked at my brother. Get everyone out first. Obviously. Every resident. Every firefighter. Mara too. He nodded. And after sunrise? I looked toward the harbor line boats. Then at my wife. Pull our people back to company property as soon as the emergency handoff is complete. Mara went still. Owen. The city keeps every asset necessary through the immediate life safety period. I was not going to endanger anyone to punish her. But when this emergency is over, the $1 lease ends. Her face lost all color. You can't do that. Yes. Bayhaven depends on those boats. Then Bayhaven can negotiate a real contract. You know the budget can't support commercial rates. That is no longer my problem. Owen. And Adrian's access ends now. He was helping. He was inside my yard because you decided being my wife gave you authority you did not have. Her eyes filled. I continued. Tonight you gave my seat away because you thought I would survive it. She whispered. I was trying to save Noah. I know. I would do it again. That hurt. But at least it was honest. I nodded. Then we both know where we stand. Caleb said nothing. Mara stared at me. What does that mean? The storm still raged outside. We had residents to move. People to save. No time for a marriage autopsy. So I gave her the only answer that mattered that night. It means after we get everyone out of this water, I'm done letting you decide what belongs to you. Her face changed. She understood. Not everything. Enough. The last rescue boat had left me behind for Adrian Vale's son. By dawn, my own boats were pulling the rest of Harbor Street to safety. And when the flood finally went down, Mara was going to discover that the boats, the marina, the emergency fuel, the political goodwill, and the husband she had treated like permanent backup had never belonged to her office in the first place. By sunrise, Harbor Line had evacuated 83 people from Harbor Street. Bayhaven Fire Department evacuated 26. The National Guard arrived after 6. Nobody cared who got credit. At least, nobody on the boats did. We were too busy moving people. Mrs. Alvarez came out first. Then the Watkins family. Then the 2 firefighters who had been stranded with us. Mara was the last person from the house. She tried to argue. Of course she did. I'm staying until the sector is cleared. Caleb looked at her. With what boat? She pointed at ours. That one. No. The word surprised her. My brother had never spoken to her that way. Mara straightened. I'm still fire chief. And that's still a Harbor Line vessel. We're operating under emergency mutual aid. No. Caleb shook his head. You had 2 vessels under lease. This isn't one of them. Mara looked at me. Owen. I was sitting in the cabin while one of our deckhands wrapped my ankle. I had finally stopped pretending it was fine. Take her. Caleb frowned. She's command. She's also soaked and exhausted. Mara's eyes flashed. I am not asking permission. No, I said. You're getting rescued. That shut her up for almost 5 seconds. A company medic checked my hand during the ride back. 7 stitches. Sprained ankle. Mild hypothermia. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that justified some heroic story about surviving abandonment. But enough that when Mara had called me fit to wade in floodwater, she had been guessing. That bothered me more after the fact. At the Harbor Line yard, the parking lot looked like a war zone. Generators running. Trailers open. Fuel drums lined up beneath tarps. Employees in rain gear drinking coffee from paper cups. Families sitting inside the maintenance warehouse wrapped in blankets. Harbor Line was not an emergency agency. But storms had a way of turning marine companies into whatever the coastline needed. Caleb stepped onto the dock and immediately started assigning crews. Boat 4 refuel. Boat 6 needs prop inspection. Get the South Canal team 30 minutes off rotation. Then he looked at Mara. You have a city vehicle coming? She nodded. Eventually. Good. No hospitality. No insult either. Just business. Mara followed me toward the office. I stopped. No. What? I'm getting treated. I'm coming. You're going back to command. Owen. You have a city in a flood. And I have a husband who can barely walk. Last night that wasn't enough to keep me on a boat. Her face went still. I regretted the line. Not because it was false. Because I did not want to turn every conversation into punishment. So I added. Do your job. We'll talk later. She stared at me for a long moment. Then left. That was the first time in our marriage she walked away because I asked instead of because she decided the discussion was over. The difference felt strange. By 8:30, Bayhaven's emergency operations center knew exactly what Harbor Line had done overnight. That was when the calls started. First, Deputy City Manager Celia Warren. Then Fire Battalion Chief Marcus Dean. Then the mayor. I answered none of them. Caleb did. He came into the treatment room while the medic was taping my ankle. You know, the city thinks we're pulling emergency support immediately. We're not. I told them. And? They want it in writing. Fine. What exactly are we committing? I thought about it. This was the part anger could ruin if I let it. The 2 leased rescue boats were still operating. The city had crews trained on them. People were still trapped in some low-lying neighborhoods. You do not take life safety equipment away in the middle of a disaster because your marriage is falling apart. Existing leases stay active through the declared emergency. Caleb nodded. Fuel support? Emergency only. Maintenance? Keep both city boats operational. Our extra crews? Until County Mutual Aid fully replaces them. How long? 48 hours unless conditions require more. He wrote it down. And after? Terminate the $1 arrangement according to the lease. He looked at me. You sure? Yes. Real market rate? Real contract. City will scream. They can negotiate. You know why Dad gave them the dollar lease? Yes. My father had started it after a child drowned during a flash flood 20 years ago. Bayhaven Fire Department had no shallow water boat at the time. He donated access to one. Then another. Over time, the informal arrangement became institutional habit. The city budget stopped planning for marine capability because Harbor Line was always there. When Mara became chief, I upgraded both boats at company expense. New sonar. Better radios. Shallow draft modifications. Trailer maintenance. Training days. No invoice. No publicity. I told myself it was for the city. It was. But if I was honest, part of it was for her. I liked making her department stronger. I liked being useful to the woman I loved. There was nothing wrong with that. What had changed was Mara treating generosity like infrastructure she controlled. Caleb asked. And Adrian? Permanent ban from company property. Already done. Access cards? Disabled. Digital systems? Yard manager says he never had login credentials. Good. Security footage saved. I looked at him. Why? He spent almost 3 hours here Tuesday. That was longer than I expected. What was he doing? Walking equipment rows. With who? Mostly alone after the manager got pulled into a crane issue. My jaw tightened. Photographs? A lot. Anything taken? Not that we know. Then don't accuse him. Caleb rolled his eyes. You are impossible. I'm serious. So am I. If he photographed equipment, he photographed equipment. We find out why before turning him into a thief. Fine. Then Caleb said. He asked about our storm response rates. That caught me. What? Commercial rates. For what? County debris clearing, vessel recovery, temporary docks. Those were exactly the services Adrian Vale's company could subcontract after a storm. I sat straighter. When? Tuesday. Before the hurricane. Before Mara gave him access. What did the manager tell him? General numbers. Nothing confidential. Did he ask about crew availability? Yes. Fuel? Yes. Which boats could run shallow debris fields? Yes. Now I understood why my stomach had gone cold when Mara's email appeared. Adrian had not just been looking at rescue capacity. He had been looking at commercial storm response capability. Possibly for legitimate planning. Possibly because Vale Coastal Development expected post-storm contracts. Either way, Mara had given him a privileged tour of a private company that regularly competed for emergency recovery work. That was not just marriage anymore. That was business. Get me every visitor log from Tuesday. Caleb nodded. And tell legal? Yes. City too? Not yet. He looked surprised. Why not? Because I still don't know what happened. I was done making conclusions faster than facts. By noon, the storm moved inland. The rain weakened. Water started dropping. Bayhaven began counting damage. 3 neighborhoods flooded. 2 bridges closed. No confirmed fatalities. That was the miracle. At 1:17, Mara finally texted. Everyone from harbor sector accounted for. I replied. Good. Nothing else. At 2:05. I need to talk about the leases. I did not respond. At 2:18. Not as your wife. As fire chief. That got my attention. I called. Her voice sounded exhausted. Owen. Chief. She hated that. I could hear it. But she accepted it. What are you doing with the boats? Keeping them through the emergency. After? Terminating the dollar lease. Silence. You know we can't replace them overnight. You don't need to. What does that mean? Lease termination requires 90 days. She went quiet. I had read the contract. She apparently had not. You're giving us 90 days. I'm following the agreement. And then commercial rate? If you want harbor line support. That could cost the department hundreds of thousands a year. Then put it in the budget. We don't have that line. You should. That sounded harsher than I intended. Mara heard it. So this is punishment. No. Really? Yes. You waited until we had a hurricane to discover harbor line needs market pricing? No. I looked through the office window at exhausted crews. I waited until you used company access without authorization and treated our assets like extensions of your department. Silence. That's what this is about. Partly. And the boat. Yes. Then it is personal. Of course it's personal. I did not lie. But the lease is still a business decision. Convenient. You want the honest version? Yes. I no longer trust informal arrangements between your department and my company. That shut her up. The old system worked because trust filled the gaps paperwork did not. Mara called me. I sent equipment. The city needed an extra pump. Harbor Line delivered it. Firefighters needed a training boat. We opened the marina. No procurement meeting. No invoice negotiation. No written scope half the time. It worked because we were married and because nobody had abused it. Now she had. We need a formal contract, I said. Defined access. Defined rates. Defined authority. No spouse assumptions. Her voice was quieter. I understand. That surprised me. Then. But don't pull the boats. 90 days. I mean after. Then make a proposal. Would you consider it? Yes. Another surprise. You would? Mara, I am not trying to make the fire department fail. She said nothing. I'm trying to stop subsidizing it based on a marriage that may not exist much longer. That landed. I heard her breathe in. May not? I closed my eyes. Not now. Focus on the city. Owen. Not now. This time she stopped. All right. That was the second accepted boundary in one day. I noticed. I did not reward it. At 3:30, the mayor called directly. Mayor Helen Sutter had been in office 11 years. Practical. Not dramatic. The kind of person who wore rain boots to press conferences if rain boots were required. Owen, first, thank you. For what? 83 residents. My crews did the work. Your company sent them. Fair. Second, I hear we have a problem. You have a contract expiring. 90 days. Yes. And you plan to charge us. Yes. She sighed. My budget director just developed chest pain. Understandable. Can we sit down when the emergency declaration ends? Absolutely. No threats? No. No surprise equipment removal? No. No making my fire chief beg you on television? I almost laughed. No. Good. Then her tone changed. Now the other issue. What issue? Adrian Vale. So she already knew. Mara told you? No. That caught me. Then who? County procurement called. My stomach tightened. Why? Vale Coastal submitted an emergency storm response capability package at 9 this morning. That alone was normal. Storm contractors move fast. What's the problem? Some of the equipment listed as available through local marine partnership appears to belong to Harbor Line. I stood. What? Mayor Sutter continued carefully. I'm looking at a capability sheet. Which equipment? 2 shallow water workboats. Portable pump packages. A fuel barge. Crane access. Those were ours. Not Adrian's. Does it say he owns them? No. Then what? It says his company has prearranged access through local strategic partners. My jaw tightened. He does not. Good to know. Did Mara authorize that? I was going to ask you. No. At least not with my permission. I looked at Caleb through the glass. He saw my face and came in. The mayor said, "County has frozen Vale's package until ownership and availability are verified." Good. Owen, I need you to send a written inventory of what Harborline has actually committed to public response. I can do that. And one more thing. Yes? Mara apparently provided Adrian a letter saying he was helping her with continuity planning. I closed my eyes. Same language from the email. Does that give him procurement authority? No. Equipment authority? No. Permission to represent our company? Absolutely not. Then put that in writing too. I hung up. Caleb stared at me. What? Adrian listed our assets in his storm response package. His face changed instantly. He what? Not as owned. As partner access. We are not his partner. I know. Did Mara know? I don't know. This time, I meant it. That question would define what happened next. If Mara knowingly allowed Adrian to present Harborline capacity as available to his company, this was no longer a bad assumption. If she did not, then Adrian had taken her loose authorization and stretched it far beyond anything she intended. Either possibility was ugly. But they were different stories. And I was not going to choose the more satisfying one without evidence. Caleb pulled up Tuesday's security footage. At 4:11 p.m., Adrian walked through our operations yard. Phone in hand. At 4:26, he photographed Boat 7. At 4:31, the pump trailers. At 4:44, the fuel barge. At 5:03, the heavy crane. At 5:17, he stood beside the storm response board mounted inside the dispatch office. The board showed equipment readiness. Crew availability. Which vessels were already committed to municipal emergency use. Adrian photographed that too. Then at 5:39, he left. No Harborline manager escort. No city employee. Just Mara's emailed authorization sitting at the front desk. I watched the footage twice. Then once more. Caleb said, "You still want to wait?" "Yes." "For what?" Mara's answer. I called. She picked up immediately. "What happened? How much did you tell Adrian he could use?" Silence. "Owen. How much?" "I told him he could inspect what might be available if the city needed private backup." "That isn't what I asked. No equipment was guaranteed." "Did you tell him he could represent Harborline assets as part of Vale Coastal's storm response capability?" "No." "Immediate. Did you know he was bidding county recovery work?" Another silence. That one lasted too long. "Mara." "Yes." My stomach dropped. "You knew." "He told me his company was preparing." "And you still gave him access." "I thought it would help regional response." "Did you tell me?" "No." "Why?" "Because I knew you would say no." There it was. Not misunderstanding. Not urgency. She bypassed me deliberately. The same woman who had removed me from the last rescue boat because Noah mattered more had also given Noah's father access to my company because she knew I would refuse. I leaned against the desk. "Did you promise him equipment?" "No." "Did you imply access?" "I told him Harborline had always supported the city. That was not yours to offer." "I know." "You knew then." Silence. "Yes." That answer changed everything. Not because she helped Adrian. Because she had knowingly used my marriage to go around my consent. Again. The boat was no longer one terrible night. It was another version of the same belief. If Mara decided the outcome was important enough, my no became a problem to work around. I said, "County has frozen his package." "What?" "He listed our assets as available through local partners." "He can't do that." "No. He told me he was only assessing capability." "Then he lied to you." Her breathing changed. I expected anger at Adrian. Instead she said, "I gave him the opening." That stopped me. Yes. She had. Not the false representation. That was his. But the access? Hers. She whispered. "I'm sorry." I did not answer. Then. "What are you going to do? With Adrian?" "Yes. Nothing tonight. Owen. Harborline Council will send a cease and desist on asset representation. County gets clarification. We preserve footage. And me? There it was. I looked at the rescue boats through the office window. One returning. One leaving. People still working. No time for revenge. No need for a dramatic final move. I'm not deciding your consequence. You're my husband. For now. She stopped breathing. I continued. But you're also fire chief. And you used that title to get a private contractor into my yard after you knew I would refuse. I know. That part doesn't belong only to our marriage. Silence. For the first time since the storm started, Mara sounded afraid of something other than losing me. What does that mean? It means I'm sending the access email and Vale's capability sheet to the city attorney. Her voice broke. Owen. Not to destroy you. Then why? Because I own Harbor Line. I looked at the screen where Adrian's footage was paused beside the fuel barge. And I'm done letting everyone else decide which parts of it they get to use. The city attorney did not call Mara first. He called me. At 9:14 the next morning, Martin Hale introduced himself, confirmed Harbor Line Counsel was on the line, and asked one question. Did Fire Chief Keene have authority to commit your company's assets to a private contractor? No. Did she have authority to grant site access? Not on behalf of Harbor Line. Then what authority did your yard manager rely on? The email she sent as fire chief. Martin was quiet. That was the ugly part. Mara had not broken into my company. She had not forged my signature. She had used an official title to create enough apparent authority that one of my employees assumed the access had been properly coordinated. The difference mattered legally. It did not make me feel better. Martin continued. Did Harbor Line suffer a financial loss? Not yet. Any equipment removed? No. Any operational data copied? Photographed? Yes. Trade secret material? Possibly some rate and readiness information. Council is reviewing. Did Vale Coastal use those materials to secure work? County froze the package before award. So no contract? Correct. Another pause. Good. Good was relative. Then he said. I'm going to recommend the city separate 3 issues. I waited. Your lease. Okay. Chief Keene's authorization. Okay. And Mr. Vale's representation to county procurement. That makes sense. It did. Too much sense, actually. Because I had been angry enough to want all 3 tied together. One betrayal. One consequence. Cleaner story. Real life was refusing. The lease was a contract question between Harbor Line and Bayhaven. Adrian's capability package was his problem. Mara's email was hers. 3 lanes. No one got to hide inside someone else's. That afternoon, the city emergency declaration remained active. Harbor Line boats were still running. So were county teams. The National Guard had taken over the worst transportation corridors. Bayhaven Fire was moving from rescue to damage assessment. And for the first time in 36 hours, everyone had enough oxygen to begin arguing about money. Mayor Helen Sutter came to Harbor Line in person. No cameras. No press secretary. Just Helen, the city manager, the fire department finance officer, Caleb, our general counsel, and me. Mara was not invited. That surprised her. She texted. Why am I not in the lease meeting? I replied. Because this is between the city and Harbor Line. 3 dots appeared. Then. Understood. No argument. Again, I noticed. Again, I did not let that change the business decision. Mayor Sutter sat across from me in our conference room and opened with. Your proposed commercial rate is going to make my council hate you. I haven't proposed one. You will. Yes. How much? Depends what you want. She sighed. 2 rescue boats. Easy. Maintenance. Easy. Training. Still easy. Guaranteed storm activation. There's the expensive part. The city manager leaned forward. Why? Because guaranteed activation means we reserve crews and equipment you may never use. Harbor Line already does that. For free. Nobody liked hearing it phrased that way. Good. I continued. My father built a charity arrangement around 1 boat. You expanded it. Yes. Because Mara became chief? The room got quiet. I answered honestly. Partly. Helen nodded. No judgment. Just data. Then we should have formalized it years ago. Yes. That surprised everyone. The fire finance officer flipped through notes. What are you asking for? I had spent the morning with Caleb and our CFO. Not revenge pricing. Not maximum commercial storm rate. A real municipal services contract. The city would pay annual readiness costs. Harbor Line would guarantee 2 dedicated rescue boats during declared flood emergencies. Additional vessels would be available at published emergency rates, subject to commercial commitments. Training would occur twice a year. Fuel and maintenance would be itemized. The city would carry appropriate liability coverage. No fire chief, mayor, spouse, cousin, friend, or strategic partner could represent Harbor Line assets as available without written authorization from 2 company officers. The city manager read that clause twice. Then looked at me. Subtle. I'm past subtle. Helen almost smiled. How much? I gave them the number. The fire finance officer inhaled sharply. The mayor did not. Can we afford it? The finance officer answered. Not in current fire operating budget. Capital reserve? Maybe initial equipment support. Emergency preparedness grant? Possible next cycle. I watched them do something Mara and I had stopped doing years ago. Discuss the actual cost of an outcome. No shortcuts. No spouse subsidy. No, Harbor Line always helps. If Bayhaven wanted marine rescue capacity, Bayhaven had to decide what it was worth. Helen looked at me. If we cannot fund the full package, lease 1 boat. That reduces capacity. Yes. You know residents will blame us after this storm. Then explain the budget. You make politics sound easy. No. I make ownership sound boring. She laughed. The meeting ended without agreement. That was fine. Good contracts do not need to be born in one afternoon. When I came out, Mara was standing in the hallway. I stopped. How did you get in? Front desk knows me. Caleb appeared behind me. Not anymore. Mara flinched. My brother did not. He walked past us. She looked at me. I'm sorry. For what? Coming here without asking. That was fast. I realized halfway through the drive. Then why continue? She looked embarrassed. Because old habits apparently have fuel tanks. I almost smiled. Almost. What do you want? To tell you Adrian called. That removed the humor. What did he say? He says the county package language was misunderstood. Did he say Harbor Line was a strategic partner? Yes. Is Harbor Line? No. Then what was misunderstood? He says he meant he expected to negotiate access if Vale won work. Did he have a preliminary agreement? No. Letter of intent? No. Email from us? No. Then he represented future hope as present capability. Mara nodded. Yes. Did you tell him he could? No. Did you tell him he could probably get it because of you? Her face changed. There. What exactly did you say? She looked at the floor. Mara. I told him you usually support anything that improves storm response. My anger came back fast. That is not permission. I know. You also told him I would say yes. I said I thought you would. Before asking me. Yes. So when he wrote, prearranged access, he had your confidence behind it. Not prearranged. But confidence. Yes. There was the difference. Adrian had stretched. Mara had supplied the stretchable material. I walked toward the warehouse door. She followed. Owen. What? I told city attorney all of that. I stopped. You volunteered it? Yes. Why? Because if I only tell them Adrian overreached, I make it sound like I had nothing to do with it. That was new. Painfully new. I looked at her. Does the mayor know? Yes. And? She removed me from all private vendor coordination until review is complete. Not suspended as chief. Not fired. Narrow restriction. Appropriate. How long? No fixed date. You okay? She laughed without humor. No. Then. But it's not unreasonable. That sentence would have been impossible for Mara 48 hours earlier. Before I could answer, a siren sounded from the yard. Not fire. Marine emergency tone. One of our radios came alive. Boat 6 had struck submerged debris near dockside apartments. Steering failure. 6 residents aboard. Current pushing them toward the old rail bridge. Caleb ran past us. Boat 3 launching. I moved automatically. So did Mara. Then she stopped herself. That was the first thing I noticed. She did not step into Harbor Line command. She looked at me. Do you need me? A simple question. Not. I'm fire chief. Not. I know rescue. Not. Move. Do you need me? Yes, I said. Medical? Coordinate transfer once they hit city side. She nodded. Done. Then she pulled out her radio and became chief again. But this time, inside someone else's operation, she stayed in her lane. Boat 3 reached 6 before the rail bridge. No injuries. We towed the disabled boat into a protected canal and transferred evacuees to a city medic unit. The entire thing took 22 minutes. When it was over, Mara stood near the dock watching our crew secure lines. Your people are good. They are. You built this. My father did most of it. You expanded it. So did Caleb. She nodded. Then said, I think I hated that. I looked at her. What? How much you had outside me? That was not what I expected. Explain. She rubbed rainwater from her forehead. When I became chief, I thought your company made us stronger. It did. Then after a while, I started thinking of Harborline as part of what I had built. I stared at her. You didn't. I know. Now. Yes. She looked toward the boats. You had employees who listened to you because you signed their checks. You had assets I couldn't command. You had people in county government who returned your calls. You had a whole world where being fire chief gave me no extra weight. That was true. And Adrian? She swallowed. Adrian treated my title like it mattered everywhere. There it was. Not romance. Validation again, but different from the other stories, and here tied to institutional access and ownership. He asked me who to call. What could be moved? What resources existed? And I liked being the person with answers. So you started answering questions that weren't yours. Yes. I looked at her. The boats? She closed her eyes. When no one needed the seat, I made the same assumption. What assumption? That your capacity was available to me. My chest tightened. She continued. You were stronger than him. More experienced. An adult. So I treated your risk like reserve capacity. That phrase hurt because it was exactly right. Reserve capacity. The person you spend because you think he can take it. I thought you would survive waiting. You didn't know. No. I thought Harborline would support the city because it always had. You didn't ask. No. I thought Adrian could inspect equipment because I knew you cared about emergency response. You knew I'd say no. Yes. She looked at me. I kept turning what I knew about you into permission. That was the first apology that reached the actual problem. Not Noah. Not Adrian. Not even the boats. Permission. I said nothing. Mara continued. I don't know if that changes anything. It doesn't. She nodded. I figured. Not yet. Her eyes lifted. That was more hope than I intended. So I corrected it. I mean, understanding is not repair. I know. Good. At 5 that evening, county procurement formally disqualified Vail Coastal's emergency storm response package. Not from all future county work. From this procurement. Reason. Material misrepresentation of immediately available subcontracted capacity. Adrian contested it. That was his right. He argued local strategic partners described expected arrangements, not guaranteed resources. The county disagreed. No criminal charge. No fraud indictment. Just lost emergency work. Potentially worth several $1,000,000. He called Mara again. She did not answer. Then called me. I did. Tell your brother to stop making this personal. That was his opening line. I leaned back. Caleb did not submit your package. You know what I mean. No. Harborline's clarification killed our bid. Your bid claimed access you didn't have. I had every reason to believe access was available. From Mara. Yes. She doesn't own Harborline. She's your wife. There it was. Same assumption. Different mouth. I almost laughed. Not relevant. Come on, Owen. No. You've supported city emergency work for years. Yes. You would have negotiated with us. Maybe. Then what's the difference? Negotiating after award is not the same as claiming capacity before permission. He went quiet. Then. You're blowing up my company because you hate me. No. I'm correcting a representation about mine. You always had a problem with me. True. That matters. Not to ownership. He cursed. Then said. Mara told me you'd help. She was wrong. Silence. She told me she was certain. I know. That landed. For the first time, Adrian sounded less angry than confused. She was never wrong about you before. Maybe that was the problem. Mara had spent years predicting what I would give. And I had spent years proving her right. Time. Equipment. Access. Patience. Second chances. Eventually, certainty replaced asking. I said, "You should talk to your lawyer." Then hung up. That night, Harborline Council delivered 3 documents. The formal 90-day lease termination notice. The proposed replacement municipal rescue services contract. And a notice to Vail Coastal demanding it cease representing Harborline equipment, crews, or facilities as available without written authorization. No lawsuit yet. No need. Just boundaries in writing. For the first time, everybody involved had to deal with what was actually theirs. The city owned its fire department. Harborline owned its boats. Adrian owned his bid. Mara owned her decisions. And I owned the right to stop being everyone's reserve capacity simply because I had always been strong enough to absorb the cost. The next morning, Mayor Sutter called. "We're accepting your proposal in principle." I blinked. That fast? Council Emergency Committee met. Funding? We'll lease 1 dedicated rescue boat, 1 seasonal reserve, and pay activation rates for extras. Less than you had before. Yes. More honest. She laughed. Unfortunately. Then her voice changed. "One more thing." "What?" "Mara has asked to be removed from the contract negotiations entirely." That surprised me. Voluntarily? Yes. Why? She said the city needs to know the agreement exists because it makes operational sense, not because the fire chief is married to the owner. I looked out at the marina. For years, I had wanted Mara to understand exactly that. Now she finally did. Too late to undo the night she put me in floodwater. Too late to make Adrian's access disappear. But not too late to change what happened next. And for the first time since the rescue boat left, I realized the thing Mara might lose was not Harborline. It was the illusion that love meant permanent access to everything I could provide. 3 days after the floodwater dropped, Bayhaven discovered it had 6 rescue boats on paper. In reality, it owned none. That discovery did more damage to Mara than Adrian's failed county bid. Not because anyone had stolen equipment. Because somebody finally asked a question the city had avoided for years. What does the fire department actually control when Harborline says no? The answer was uncomfortable. 2 shallow water rescue boats were under the $1 lease. Those were legitimate city use assets for the duration of the agreement. Everything beyond that was different. Additional boats. Fuel reserves. Heavy pumps. Marine mechanics. Tow vehicles. Operators. Night crews. Portable communications equipment. Dock space. Those belonged to Harborline. They had always belonged to Harborline. Yet Bayhaven's emergency operations plan listed much of that capacity under a section titled Supplemental Local Marine Resources, Immediate Availability. Not potential. Not subject to request. Immediate. I learned because Mayor Sutter asked me to come to City Hall. This meeting was different from the lease negotiation. No Mara. No finance officer. The city's emergency management director, Grant Holloway, sat beside Helen with a binder thick enough to stop a bullet. He opened to a highlighted page. "Is this accurate?" I read it. Harborline Marine Services can provide up to 6 additional shallow draft vessels, 22 qualified marine personnel, 2 mobile fuel units, portable pumping capacity, and heavy recovery equipment within 60 minutes of fire command activation. I stared at the paragraph. Who wrote this? Grant answered. Emergency plan revision from 18 months ago. Who approved it? Chief Keene signed the department section. My stomach tightened. Did Harborline sign anything? That's what I'm asking. No. Memorandum of understanding? No. Letter? No. Email? Not from me. Grant turned another page. Previous version says, may be available through voluntary private sector support. That's accurate. Current version says, can provide. That is not. Helen leaned back. Could you provide it? Sometimes. That's not what it says. No. Grant asked. During Felix, how many boats did Harborline deploy? 6 eventually. Personnel? 26 over rotations. Fuel? Yes. Pumps? Yes. So the plan predicted what happened. By luck. He looked at me. Explain. Boat 5 was in dry dock until 2 days before the storm. Boat 3 was supposed to be working a port contract in Michigan, but the customer delayed mobilization. 8 of the 26 employees volunteered on their scheduled time off. I tapped the binder. If Felix came 1 week earlier, I could not have delivered what this document promises. Grant's expression changed. That was the problem. Emergency plans are not supposed to be based on the possibility that the fire chief's husband will probably say yes. Helen asked. Did Mara ever discuss a guaranteed surge arrangement with you? Not formally. Informally? I thought. There had been conversations. Years of them. She would ask. If a major flood hit, how many could you launch? And I would answer. 5, maybe 6. Or, if we lost the city marina, could Harbor Line stage fire crews? Probably. Or, could your mechanics keep our rescue boats running for 72 hours? Yes. Marriage table conversations. Coffee. Dinner. The kind of things two people say because their work overlaps. I had never realized those answers were becoming planning assumptions. She asked what we could probably do, I said. Did you tell her she could put it in the emergency plan? No. Did she show you this? No. Grant turned another page. Now I understood why he looked angry. The same 6-boat surge capacity appeared in a state preparedness assessment Bayhaven submitted the previous year. It had helped the city demonstrate adequate flood response capability. That did not necessarily mean anyone had lied to the state. Harbor Line existed. The equipment existed. The historical support existed. But the document implied more certainty than the city actually possessed. Grant said. We postponed a municipal marine unit purchase 2 budget cycles ago. I looked up. Why? Because the fire department's readiness analysis said supplemental private capacity reduced the need. There it was. The cost. Not stolen money. A decision. Bayhaven could have purchased another rescue boat. Could have trained more operators. Could have created its own fuel reserve. Instead, it spent the money elsewhere because Mara's plan said my company would fill the gap. Helen asked. Did you know that? No. You never discussed the deferred purchase? Mara told me the city had other priorities. Did she say Harbor Line support was part of the reason? No. My anger felt different this time. Not hot. Heavy. The $1 lease had started as generosity. Somewhere along the way, the city stopped treating it like generosity and started budgeting around it. And Mara had helped make that happen without telling me. Grant closed the binder. I need to speak with Chief Keene. Then why am I here first? Because I wanted to know whether there was an agreement sitting in your files that mine didn't have. There isn't. Helen rubbed her forehead. This just got expensive. How expensive? Depends how much of this plan we have to replace. I understood. The city was no longer negotiating whether Harbor Line's commercial rate seemed unfair. It was confronting the cost of creating its own resilience. That afternoon, Mara came to the house. Not Harbor Line. Our house. She still had a key. She texted before entering. Can I come in? I said yes. She arrived carrying a copy of the emergency plan. Dropped it on the dining table. You saw it. Yes. I should have shown you. Yes. She sat. No attempt to soften it. No argument that I had verbally promised. That made me more willing to listen. Why did you change "may be available" to "can provide"? She looked at the highlighted sentence. Because every major storm, you provided. That isn't an answer. I know. She took a breath. The state assessment penalized us if too much response capacity was listed as uncertain. I stared at her. So you made it sound certain? Yes. Without making it certain? Yes. Why not come to me and negotiate a real guarantee? Her answer came slowly. Because then you would have asked the city to pay for it. I laughed once. Not because it was funny. There it is. Owen. No. That's actually the first completely honest answer. She looked ashamed. We didn't have the money. So you used the marriage instead? Yes. I sat across from her. How long? About 2 years. Does the mayor know? Now. Did the old mayor know? No. City manager? Not the details. Grant? He knew Harbor Line was private support. He says he assumed I had a standing understanding with you. Did you tell him you did? Mara stared at the table. Not directly. What did you say? That I had reliable access. I almost stood. Reliable access to my company. Yes. Because you were married to me. Yes. There was no escaping it. She continued. I told myself it was true. It was true. She looked up, surprised. That's why this is worse. I pointed toward the binder. I would have helped. Almost every time. Yes. So you converted willingness into obligation. Her eyes filled. Yes. And then you built a government plan around it. Yes. The room went quiet. This was bigger than Adrian. Bigger than the last rescue boat. Adrian had only exposed the assumption. Mara had been making it for years. She whispered. I thought Harborline was part of our life. It was. And I stopped noticing where our life ended and your company began. Yes. That was the real story. Marriage had blurred ownership. Not legally. Psychologically. Her fire department. My marine company. Shared dinners. Shared storms. Shared contacts. Shared reputation. Over time, Mara stopped hearing the word my when I talked about Harborline. She heard ours. Then translated ours into available. That afternoon, Mayor Sutter did not suspend Mara. She did something Mara hated more. She ordered a full capability rebuild. Not a misconduct investigation. A readiness exercise. Every resource in Bayhaven's emergency plan had to be classified into one of 4 categories. City-owned. Contractually guaranteed. Mutual aid. Potential voluntary support. Anything in the 4th category could no longer be counted toward minimum operational capability. Grant called it planning from zero. For Mara, it was brutal. Because suddenly the fire department she had spent 5 years making look extraordinarily resilient became much smaller on paper. 2 engines older than she liked. 1 ladder truck overdue for replacement. 1 leased rescue boat after the new agreement. Limited marine trained staffing. No guaranteed heavy pump support. No private fuel reserve. No 6-boat surge. No automatic Harborline mechanics. No invisible husband behind the budget. That was what nothing looked like. Not literally nothing. Nothing she had not actually secured. The next city council workshop lasted 4 hours. I watched online. Mara stood before the council with a new equipment table behind her. No Harborline logo. No donated capacity blended into municipal assets. Councilman Peter Rowe frowned at the numbers. Chief, last year you told us Bayhaven could deploy 8 shallow water vessels in a major flood. Mara answered. We could access that many under historical practice. That is not what I asked. No, sir. So how many are guaranteed today? 1 under the proposed Harborline contract. A murmur went through the room. Rowe leaned forward. 1? Yes. What happened to the others? They were never ours. Silence. That was the sentence. They were never ours. I sat alone in my living room and heard my wife say publicly what she had spent years refusing to see privately. Another council member asked, Did Harborline withdraw them because of your marital dispute? Mara could have blamed me. Politically, it would have helped. She didn't. Harborline declined to continue treating voluntary capacity as guaranteed capacity without a formal agreement. Because the owner is your husband. Yes. Your estranged husband? A pause. Yes. Is he punishing the city? Mara looked toward the cameras. No. That surprised the room. She continued. The city benefited for years from an arrangement that depended too heavily on a personal relationship. Councilwoman Elise Morgan asked. Did council know? No. Did you? Yes. Why didn't you tell us? Mara did not hide. Because I believed the arrangement would continue. That is not a budget answer. No, ma'am. What is? Mara took a breath. I treated a private relationship as a reliable public resource. There it was. No investigation needed. No leaked email. No dramatic exposure. She said it herself. I should not have. The next 2 hours were painful. But useful. The council found money. Not all at once. 1 rescue boat purchase moved into the capital plan. A regional flood response grant application was accelerated. The city negotiated 1 Harborline dedicated lease plus emergency activation access to additional vessels. The county agreed to station 1 of its high-water trucks closer to Bayhaven during hurricane season. 2 neighboring departments revised mutual aid agreements. For the first time, Bayhaven's flood plan became more expensive and less impressive on paper. It also became real. After the meeting, Mara called me. I thought they were going to fire me. Council can't casually fire you at a workshop. You know what I mean. Yes. They were furious. They should be. I know. Then she said. Rowe asked what happens if Harborline sells. Good question. What did you say? That the city still has the contract term and then has to renegotiate with whoever owns it. Good. He asked what happens if you die. I laughed. Less diplomatic. I said the same thing. Also good. She became quiet. I realized our entire plan used to have an unspoken answer. What? If something happened to Owen, we'll figure it out. That was not resilience. That was hope wearing a uniform. I'm sorry, she said. I did not answer immediately. Then. For which part? The city? Yes. The company? Yes. The boat? Her voice changed. Yes. Adrian? Yes. Our marriage? She started crying. Yes. At least she was finally separating them. Each failure had its own shape. That night, Caleb came over with takeout. He had watched the council meeting too. She owned it. Yes. You sound disappointed. I'm not. You want her fired? No. He stared at me. Really? No. After all this? I want Bayhaven to stop operating on my marriage. That's happening. Yes. And Mara? I looked at the dark window. I don't know. Caleb ate in silence for a while. Then. You know what Dad would say? Something annoying. He'd say never give away an asset long enough that people forget it was a gift. I laughed. That does sound like him. The next morning, Mara resigned from one position. Not fire chief. Emergency planning coordinator. Bayhaven had combined that responsibility with fire command years earlier. Mara asked the city manager to separate them again. Her explanation was straightforward. The department needed independent emergency planning oversight from someone who was not simultaneously responsible for defending fire department assumptions. Grant Holloway took temporary control. That decision cost Mara influence. She made it voluntarily. No one forced her. Then she did something that surprised me more. She sent Harborline an invoice request. Not a demand. A request. Please provide pricing for 12 hours of flood response training for Bayhaven fire personnel next quarter. For the first time in years, she was asking my company what our work cost before assuming it would appear. Caleb printed the email and carried it into my office. Frame this? Get out. I'm serious. Send her a quote. Full rate? I thought. Yes. No ex-wife discount? She's not my ex-wife. Yet. I looked at him. He shrugged. Just tracking facts. We sent the quote. Mara accepted it without negotiation. That was when I realized leaving her with nothing was not going to mean destroying her department. It meant something much more uncomfortable for both of us. I was taking away everything that existed only because she could once say, Owen will handle it. From then on, if Bayhaven wanted a boat, it needed a contract. If Mara wanted access, she needed permission. If Adrian wanted equipment, he needed his own agreement. If the city wanted readiness, it needed a budget. And if Mara wanted a marriage, that would have to be built without treating me as the emergency reserve she could spend whenever everyone else mattered more. Adrian Vale sued my company 12 days after the hurricane. That was how I learned Mara had promised him more than access. Not ownership. Not a signed subcontract. Something more dangerous because it lived in the gray area between personal assurance and business commitment. His complaint arrived at Harborline at 8:06 on a Monday morning. Vale Coastal Development alleged that Harborline had wrongfully withdrawn from a storm response partnership after Adrian relied on representations made by Fire Chief Mara Keene. He wanted damages. Lost bidding costs. Lost expected profits. And an emergency order preventing Harborline from denying that a partnership had existed while county procurement reviewed his disqualification. Caleb carried the complaint into my office. You're going to love page 14. That usually means I won't. He dropped it on my desk. Adrian's lawyers had attached screenshots. Messages between him and Mara. Not secret romance. Not flirtation. Worse for me in a different way. Business assurances. 3 weeks before the hurricane, Adrian wrote. If county opens emergency recovery packages after Felix, I need marine depth. Harborline would make us competitive. Mara replied. Owen has always supported public storm work. If the need is real, I can get you access. Adrian. Need more than a tour. I'd have to represent marine capacity in the package. Mara. Don't list ownership. Say local partner availability. I'll make sure Owen understands why it matters. I read that sentence twice. Then once more. Caleb said nothing. The next message was worse. Adrian. Can I count 2 shallow boats, pumps, fuel support, heavy lift? Mara. Those are realistic. Owen won't leave the region short during a major storm. There it was. No signed contract. No harbor line authorization. But she had told him what to count. My wife had not merely predicted I would help. She had coached her ex-husband on how to describe access to my company in a bid package. I closed the complaint. Call legal. Already did. Did Mara know he filed? No idea. I called her. She answered on the second ring. Owen? Did you tell Adrian to list local partner availability? Silence. My stomach dropped. Mara. Yes. I stood. You told me you never authorized him to represent our assets. I didn't think that wording was a representation of a finalized agreement. That is not the same answer. No. Did you tell him he could count 2 boats? Yes. Pumps? Yes. Fuel? Yes. Heavy lift? Yes. I felt the anger rise. Not explosive. Precise. You gave him a package. I gave him an estimate of what Harbor Line could probably support. You don't work for Harbor Line. I know. You don't own Harbor Line. I know. You knew I would probably refuse to partner with Adrian. Yes. And you still told him what he could put in a county package. Her voice broke. Yes. That was new. Not the fact. The admission. No defense. I asked. Did you tell city attorney all of this? No. Why? I forgot those messages existed. I closed my eyes. Convenient. I know how that sounds. It sounds impossible. I was answering questions about the yard access and his capability sheet. I remembered telling him you usually helped. I didn't remember the exact wording. Now he's suing Harbor Line based on your promise. I know. Do you? Yes. She sounded sick. What does he want? Money. Recognition that a partnership existed. There wasn't one. I know. Are you willing to say that under oath? Immediate. Yes. That mattered. It did not make me less angry. But it mattered. Harbor Line's attorneys responded that afternoon. No partnership. No contract. No letter of intent. No signed scope. No authorization from an officer of the company. No consideration. No exclusivity. No pricing. No availability guarantee. Mara Keene had no actual authority to commit Harbor Line. Simple. Adrian's argument was not simple. He claimed apparent authority. Harbor Line had supported Bayhaven for years. Mara was my wife. She was the fire chief. My company had historically responded whenever she requested help. Adrian had toured the yard under her written authorization. Our own manager allowed him inside. Nobody told him at the time that Mara lacked authority. From his perspective, he argued, her assurances were reasonable enough to rely on when preparing the county package. I hated how plausible that sounded. Not enough to make him right. Enough to make litigation expensive. Our lawyer, Diane Park, sat across from Caleb and me. This is what informal relationships cost. Caleb leaned back. You think he can win? Expected profits? Hard. Why? County never awarded him the contract. She tapped the complaint. He has to prove too many speculative steps. Bidding costs? Possible argument. Partnership declaration? Unlikely if the documents stay where they are. I asked. What hurts us? Diane looked directly at me. History. Of course. Explain. Your company repeatedly performed work after Mara requested it without formal contracting. Yes. You expanded city access while married to her. Yes. You allowed city staff to treat her as the practical point of contact. Sometimes. You let her send employees to your yard. Yes. Did you ever tell outside parties she could not speak for Harbor Line? No. Because I didn't think she was speaking for Harbor Line. Diane nodded. That distinction makes sense inside your head. Then she pointed toward Adrian's messages. It may not have been obvious from outside. That was uncomfortable because it was true. Mara had overreached. But Harbor Line had helped create the ambiguity. Generosity without structure. Again. Diane said. If you want to win cleanly, we may need Mara's testimony. Caleb laughed bitterly. That'll be fun. I did not. Because this was no longer about punishing her. If Mara told the truth, she would have to admit publicly that she promised access she had no right to promise. That could affect her job. Not because I reported her. Because Adrian sued. Different engine. Different consequence. I called Mara that evening. You may get subpoenaed. I assumed. Harborline is not asking you to shape anything. I know. Tell the truth. I will. Even if it hurts us. Silence. Then. Yes. That answer caught me. You understand what I said? Yes. If there were things I did that reasonably made you think you had authority, say them. Owen. I mean it. You're asking me to help his case. No. I'm asking you not to become mine. That stopped her. I continued. I'm tired of people deciding what version helps the person they love. She went quiet. Then. Okay. 3 weeks later, Mara sat for deposition. I did not attend. Diane did. So did Adrian and his attorney. The transcript arrived the next day. I read every page. Adrian's lawyer started with the obvious. Chief Keene, did you tell Mr. Vale that Harborline would likely support storm response activity? Yes. Did you tell him he could identify Harborline as a local partner? I told him he could use language suggesting local partner availability. Why? Because I believed my husband would agree. Was that belief based on history? Yes. Had Harborline previously provided equipment when you requested it? Yes. How often? Many times. Had Mr. Keene ever refused emergency support? Not during an active life safety emergency. That was true. Did you believe you had authority to bind Harborline? No. Did you tell Mr. Vale that? Mara paused. No. That hurt us. Correctly. Then Adrian's lawyer asked. Did Harborline's yard manager allow my client access based on your email? Yes. Was he told you lacked authority? Not by me. Did you intend Mr. Vale to rely on your representations? Mara took almost 15 seconds. Then. I intended him to believe I could probably persuade Owen to support the arrangement. There it was. Probably persuade. Not commit. The distinction everything depended on. The lawyer pushed. So you expected Harborline to participate? Yes. Was that expectation reasonable? Mara answered. Historically, yes. Another uncomfortable truth. Then Diane questioned her. Chief Keene, did Owen authorize you to negotiate a partnership with Vale Coastal? No. Did Caleb? No. Any Harborline officer? No. Did you have access to Harborline's pricing authority? No. Could you reserve a vessel? No. Could you assign Harborline crews? No. Could you sign a subcontract? No. Did you tell Mr. Vale he had guaranteed access? No. Did you know his county package would describe the assets as prearranged? No. Would you have approved that phrase? No. Why not? Mara answered. Because I knew no actual agreement existed. That was the line. She had overpromised. Adrian had overstated. Separate failures. Then Diane asked one final question. Why did you tell Mr. Vale what Harborline would probably provide without first asking Owen? Mara could have said emergency planning. Regional resilience. Storm preparation. All partially true. Instead. Because I knew my husband disliked Adrian, and I believed asking first would produce a no. No one spoke for several seconds. Diane asked. So you bypassed the owner because you expected refusal? Yes. That answer probably damaged Mara more than anything else. But it also destroyed Adrian's argument that she was functioning like a legitimate company representative. She had admitted she was acting around the owner. Not for him. The lawsuit did not reach trial. Adrian's attorneys requested mediation. Harborline agreed. He dropped the claim for expected profits. Dropped the demand for recognition of a partnership. Harborline agreed only to reimburse a small portion of documented costs directly attributable to our yard manager, allowing the inspection to proceed without confirming authority. Caleb hated that. We're paying him. We're paying for our own bad control. He lied. He overstated. Same thing. No. Diane interrupted. Owen is right. Caleb glared at both of us. I continued. Our manager saw Mara's city title and my last name and assumed that was enough. So we fixed that. We did. New visitor policy. No third-party access based on city emails alone. No family member of an owner could authorize company resources unless separately designated in writing. No one got to use marriage as apparent authority again. Adrian accepted the settlement. County procurement kept his emergency package disqualified. Vale Coastal continued operating. Smaller than before. No dramatic bankruptcy. No collapse. He simply lost one large opportunity and paid a legal bill for trying to build a bid on resources he did not control. That was enough. The bigger consequence landed on Mara. Her deposition transcript became part of the city's internal review because she had testified under oath about using her fire chief role to facilitate private contractor access while knowing Harborline's owner might object. Mayor Sutter called her in. This time Mara did not call me afterward. She came to the house. Waited on the porch. Texted. "Can I come in?" I opened the door. She was still in uniform. No coat. No bag. "What happened?" "I'm taking 30 days administrative leave." I stared at her. Ordered? "Partly." "What does partly mean?" Helen offered me two choices while they finish governance review. Leave? Or remain chief but delegate all procurement, private partnerships, and emergency resource planning. That sounds manageable. I chose leave. Why? She looked at me. Because every room I walk into right now becomes about whether people are allowed to tell me no. That surprised me. She continued. I need to know whether my department functions without me in it. It would. She knew that now. Battalion Chief Marcus Dean would act as fire chief. The department would respond to calls. Training would continue. Budgets would move. No one would wait for Mara Keene to make the city function. She said. Helen also told me I may face discipline. For the Adrian access? Yes. Termination? She didn't say. Do you think you should be fired? Mara sat down. I don't know. That was probably the first time in her career she had admitted uncertainty without immediately filling it. Then. I know I crossed a line. Yes. I know I made the city vulnerable. Yes. I know I used you. I said nothing. Not just the boats. She looked toward the kitchen. The company. The contacts. The assumption that if I needed something badly enough, you would eventually give it. Yes. Then she said. I want to tell you something without asking you to respond. That was new. I nodded. When I put Noah on the boat, I wasn't choosing Adrian. I stayed silent. I was choosing the person I thought was least able to survive being left. That hurt in a different way. And I thought that was you. She shook her head. No. I thought you were the most able to survive it. There it was. Important difference. She whispered. I kept giving away your share because I thought you were strong enough to lose it. The boat seat. Harbor line capacity. Time. Trust. Maybe the marriage. Strength had become an excuse to spend me. Mara looked down. I don't know what happens to us. Neither did I. But I know I don't get to say you left me with nothing if you stop giving me things that were never mine. That sentence stayed between us. Because the title people would later attach to our story made it sound like revenge. I left her with nothing. The truth was different. Mara still had her rank. Her salary, for now. Her house equity. Her retirement. Her skills. Her career, maybe. What she was losing were the invisible supports she had mistaken for possessions. My company. My equipment. My automatic yes. My reputation in county emergency circles. My willingness to absorb whatever choice seemed easiest for everyone else. I looked at her. What are you going to do for 30 days? She gave a weak smile. Apparently nothing. Impossible. I know. No fire radio? Turned in. No city phone? Turned in. No emergency meetings? No. Adrian? No. Noah? Her face softened. Noah texted me. What did he say? He said he hopes I'm okay. Of course he did. A 17-year-old kid showing more emotional maturity than most of us. Did you answer? Yes. What? That none of this is his fault. Good. Mara stood. I'm staying with my sister for a while. You don't have to. I know. Then why? Because if I stay here, I'll spend every day watching your face to see whether I'm forgiven yet. She had learned something. Not enough to fix us. Enough to stop trying to force the timeline. At the door, she turned. Owen? Yes? When I come back from leave, whatever job I still have. She paused. I'm going to find out what the department looks like without Harbor Line hidden underneath it. I nodded. That's probably overdue. Yes. Then she left. The next morning, Battalion Chief Dean took command. Bayhaven Fire answered 17 calls. 2 alarms. 1 vehicle extraction. A kitchen fire. 3 medical assists. Nobody called Mara. Nobody called me. And for the first time in years, both of us had to watch systems we thought depended on us continue without our hands on them. That was when the real question stopped being what Mara would lose. It became whether she could build anything honest after losing access to what had never truly belonged to her. Mara's 30-day leave ended with a warehouse fire. Not metaphorically. At 5:42 on a Thursday morning, Bayhaven Dispatch received the first alarm from Dock 14. By 5:49, flames were visible from across the river. By 5:56, 3 alarms had been requested. And for the first time in 5 years, nobody at Bayhaven Fire called Harbor Line. I knew because I was already awake. Caleb and I had a 6:30 meeting with a shipping company about a damaged pier, and when I drove along the industrial road, I saw a column of black smoke rising over the waterfront. My instinct was immediate. Call Mara. Then Harbor Line Dispatch. Get our pump barges moving. Send 2 workboats to the south dock. Open the fuel yard. I had done versions of that for years. Sometimes before the fire department formally asked. Sometimes before Mara even knew she needed it. I reached for my phone. Then stopped. The city had a new emergency plan. Harbor Line had a new contract. If Bayhaven needed us, there was now a number. A procedure. An activation rate. A written authority chain. So I drove past. It felt wrong. At 6:08, our dispatcher called. Bayhaven Fire requesting marine support under the new contract. Good. Who authorized? Acting Chief Dean. That caught me. Mara's back today. Apparently she hasn't reassumed command yet. Of course. Her leave officially ended at 8. Activate 1 rescue boat and pump 2. Additional crew? Per contract. No freebies? I looked toward the smoke. Per contract. That answer still felt unnatural. But it was correct. Harbor Line launched at 6:16. Not because Mara was my wife. Not because the fire chief knew the owner. Because Bayhaven requested contracted support. The paperwork took maybe 4 minutes longer than the old phone call. The boat still arrived before the fire crossed the warehouse firewall. That mattered. At 7:32, Mara texted. I'm at Dock 14. Nothing else. I replied. Saw the smoke. Then. Harbor Line activated through Dean. Her answer. I know. Thank you. No, can you send another? No, we need more fuel. No assumption. At 8:04, Mara formally returned to duty. Mayor Sutter could have delayed her return. She didn't. The city's governance review had finished 2 days earlier. The findings were serious but narrower than people expected. Mara had improperly used her official position to facilitate Adrian's private access to Harbor Line. She had failed to disclose that she knew he was preparing for county storm response contracting. She had represented private Harbor Line capacity in municipal emergency planning without a binding agreement. But the review found no kickback. No financial benefit. No evidence Mara had steered city contracts to Adrian. No evidence she had given him confidential bid information. No evidence she had ordered anyone to falsify records. The discipline was administrative. Written reprimand. Mandatory ethics training. Loss of private vendor approval authority for 1 year. Emergency planning remained separated from the fire chief's office permanently. And Mara returned as chief. I did not know how she felt about that until 2 days earlier, when she called. They're keeping me. You sound surprised. I am. Did you want them to fire you? No. Then? I think part of me expected a cleaner punishment. Cleaner? Lose the job. Become the villain. Start over. That would be easier. In some ways. I understood. Being fired would create an ending. Returning meant working every day inside the department while everyone remembered why the rules had changed. You going back? Yes. Why? She thought for several seconds. Because I want to see whether I can lead a department that doesn't need my marriage to function. That was a better reason than redemption. The Dock 14 fire gave her the answer immediately. At 9:30, the warehouse roof partially collapsed. Nobody inside. The company stored marine paint, solvents, and fiberglass materials. Water alone was not enough. Bayhaven needed foam. Its primary foam trailer had been moved inland during the hurricane and was unavailable. Old Mara would have called me. Not Harbor Line. Me. I would have found something. A supplier. A port contact. A private tank. A shortcut. New Mara asked logistics for the approved regional resource list. They found a county airport foam unit. 34 minutes away. Too slow. Then one of her captains suggested the Port Authority had compatible concentrate at Terminal 4. Old Mara might have said, "Call Owen, he knows the port director." Instead she asked, "Do we have a mutual aid agreement?" The captain checked. "Yes. Use it. Simple. No favors. No private phone call. No debt." At 10:21, the Port Authority truck arrived. At 11:06, fire spread stopped. By noon, the incident shifted from offensive suppression to containment. Harbor Line's pump barge remained on scene until 3:18. Then our crew chief handed Bayhaven a digital service log. Hours. Fuel. Equipment. Personnel. Invoiceable activity. Mara signed the receiving acknowledgement. I was not there. That was the part that mattered most. The first major waterfront emergency after our marriage broke did not require us to speak once. Bayhaven called Harbor Line. Harbor Line responded. Mara commanded firefighters. Caleb managed marine assets. The system worked. That evening, she called. "You were right." I laughed. That usually means something terrible happened. The contract. What about it? It worked. That was the idea. No. She sounded almost annoyed. I mean, it actually worked. Strong endorsement. I thought formalizing everything would slow us down. Did it? For minutes, maybe. And? We lost more time waiting for the foam unit. Not Harbor Line's department. I know. There was satisfaction in her voice. Not because she had succeeded alone. Because for the first time, she knew exactly what resources were hers to command and what resources had to be requested. That certainty was better than fake abundance. Then she said, "I didn't call you. I noticed." Was that weird? Yes. For me too. We were quiet. Then. I almost did. For what? When the foam problem hit. I smiled despite myself. Who stopped you? Me. Good. What did you think? That Owen probably knows somebody. That sounds familiar. Then I realized that was exactly how we got here. Yes. Not corruption. Convenience. Years of convenience layered until it became entitlement. She continued. So I made my logistics captain solve it. Did he? Yes. Then maybe let him keep his job. Considering it. We both laughed. That conversation did not save our marriage. But it changed the question again. For months, I had been asking whether Mara understood what she had taken from me. Now I started asking something harder. Who was she when she could not take it anymore? The answer came slowly. She became less impressive. Which was probably good. City council meetings got harder. The revised emergency plan showed gaps. Mara had to ask for money. Real money. A new rescue boat. Additional flood response staffing. Foam reserves. Maintenance. Training. The council said no to 2 of 5 requests. Old Mara would have filled the gaps privately. Called me. Called Adrian. Found a donor. Found an angle. New Mara documented the risk. Then left it documented. When Councilman Rowe complained, "Chief, surely you can find some local partner to cover this temporarily." Mara answered, "Temporary private support is not the same as guaranteed readiness." I watched the clip later. That sentence would have made me laugh a year earlier. Now it sounded earned. The strangest consequence came from Harbor Line. Once our support became a real contract, other municipalities noticed. Caleb had always complained that our free work for Bayhaven made it harder to price emergency services elsewhere. He was right. If Bayhaven got 6 boats for almost nothing, neighboring towns asked why they should pay. The new contract changed that. Within 3 months, Harbor Line signed flood response agreements with 2 county governments and a port district. Revenue increased enough that Caleb proposed creating a dedicated emergency services division. You realize this happened because your marriage imploded. Excellent business plan. I'm naming it after Mara. No. Keen Disaster Services. We are both keen. Right. That ruins the joke. The new division required hiring 12 people, purchasing 2 additional shallow water boats, adding a mobile command trailer. For years, I had treated emergency support as something Harborline did around its real business. Now it became real business. Defined, priced, staffed, sustainable. The irony was brutal. Mara losing automatic access made Harborline more capable of helping everyone, including Bayhaven. At the end of her first month back, she came to the marina for scheduled training. Not alone. No special entrance. She arrived with 14 firefighters and a purchase order. Our training supervisor checked them in. Mara signed a liability form like everyone else. I watched from my office window. Caleb appeared beside me. You going down? No. She's your wife. Separated wife. Still. She's here as a customer. He stared at me. You've become unbearably healthy. Go away. He left laughing. I did eventually go down. Not because Mara summoned me. Because Boat 9's steering linkage had a problem and I wanted to see it. She was on the dock wearing turnout pants and a department t-shirt. No makeup. Hair tied back. She saw me. Owen. Mara. Then she pointed toward one of the new training markers. Your instructor says our approach angle is bad. It is. You watched? Enough. What are we doing wrong? I almost answered automatically. Then stopped. Ask him. She caught it. For a second, old irritation appeared. Then disappeared. She turned to our instructor. Tom, show me again. That was it. A tiny moment. But months earlier, Mara would have preferred information from me because getting it from her husband felt faster. Now she went back to the person whose job it was. That was how habits changed. Not through speeches. Through inconvenience. After training, she found me beside the maintenance shed. Can we talk? Yes. Not about work. Okay. She held something out. A key. Our house. I stared at it. You still have one? Yes. I thought you needed it. I don't. You're moving permanently to your sister's? No. She looked nervous. I rented an apartment. That surprised me. For how long? A year. Why? She closed her hand around the key again. Because I keep thinking the goal is to come home. I said nothing. And I don't think that should be the goal. My chest tightened. What should be? To figure out whether there's anything between us when neither of us needs the other person to restore the old arrangement. That was painfully reasonable. She opened her hand again. I took the key. She said, I love you. First time in months. No request attached. No, please come back. No, give me another chance. Just information. I looked at her. I love you too. Her eyes filled. That made leaving harder. Not easier. Love was never the entire problem. Then she asked, is that enough? No. Her face crumpled slightly. But she nodded. I know. That was the right answer. A week later, something happened that made the future even less obvious. Mayor Sutter announced she would not seek re-election. Nothing to do with Mara. She was 67 and tired. Within hours, local political people started naming possible candidates. Council members. A school superintendent. A business owner. Then someone mentioned Mara. The fire chief who led Bayhaven through Hurricane Felix. The woman who publicly rebuilt the city's emergency plan after admitting its weaknesses. Her approval among residents was still high despite the reprimand. A political consultant called her. Then another. She told me because she thought the irony was funny. They want me to run for mayor. I stared at her. You? Apparently voters like disasters. Do you want it? No. Immediate. Then she paused. Actually. I laughed. There she is. Shut up. She sat across from me at a coffee shop. I like the idea of being able to fix things the fire department can't. That sounds dangerous. I know. Budget authority? Yes. Emergency planning? Yes. Public works? Yes. More access. She went silent. There it was. The old temptation in a new form. Not rank. Reach. The ability to solve more. Mara looked at me. I think I need to say no. Because of us? No. Because of the reprimand? Partly. Then why? She thought carefully. Because right now, wanting more authority is still too close to wanting to prove I can use it correctly. That was the most important no I ever heard her say. She did not run. For the first time, Mara had been offered more power after losing control of the things she had assumed were hers. And chose not to reach for it. That did not give her harbor line back. It did not put us back in the same house. It did not erase the rescue boat disappearing into the flood with Noah in my seat. But it told me something the apology never could. She was finally learning that sometimes the strongest thing a leader can do with available power is leave it untouched. Noah Vale walked into Harbor Line 6 months after Hurricane Felix and asked me for a job. I thought Caleb had put him up to it. He hadn't. Noah stood in our reception area wearing jeans, work boots that looked too new, and a navy sweatshirt from Bayhaven High. 18 now. Graduating in 3 months. Still thin. Still carrying himself like a kid who had learned too early that adults could turn him into the center of arguments he never asked to join. Our receptionist called me. "There's a Noah Vale here." I stared at the phone. Did he say why? Job application. Of course. I went downstairs. He stood when he saw me. "Mr. Keene." "Owen." "Right." He held a folder. I filled out the apprentice application. I did not take it. "Does your father know you're here?" His face changed. "No." "That's encouraging." "He'll find out." Also encouraging. "I'm 18. That does not automatically make every idea good." He almost smiled. "I know. Why Harbor Line?" That answer came quickly. "Because I want to work on boats. Plenty of marinas. I want marine recovery. Plenty of companies. Not like this one." I leaned against the reception desk. "What exactly do you think we do?" He started listing things. Towing. Salvage. Emergency support. Diving coordination. Storm recovery. Port logistics. Heavy lift. He had done his homework. Then. "I'm starting community college in the fall. Marine diesel program." That surprised me. "Your dad's development company?" "I don't want construction management." "Does he know that?" "Yes." "How'd that go?" "About how you think." "Fair." I finally took the folder. His grades were decent. No technical experience beyond basic auto shop. 1 summer working at a grocery store. 2 years varsity hockey. 1 speeding ticket. Normal kid. Nothing about the hurricane. Good. I looked up. "Why me?" He understood the real question. "I don't know." That is rarely a good interview answer. "I mean." He looked uncomfortable. "After the storm, I kept thinking about the boats. Because one rescued you." "Yes." "Then. And because you came back." "I didn't." He frowned. "Your company did. Different. You own it. With Caleb. So you sent them." "My cruise launched because Harbor Line had capacity and people needed help." Noah stared at me. "You always correct the heroic version?" "Whenever possible." He laughed. Then his expression became serious. "I want to learn how it actually works." That answer was better. Not save people. Not repay a debt. Not prove something. Learn. I said. "You know you don't owe me anything." "I know. You didn't take my seat." "I know. Mara made that decision." "I know. If this is some guilt thing, I'm not hiring you." "It's not." I studied him. "Your father's going to think it is. He thinks everything is about him." That was sharper than I expected. "Careful. He sued your company." "Yes." "He used your equipment in a bid without permission." "Yes." "He told me you ruined his storm business because you were jealous." I said nothing. Noah continued. "I read the settlement." "How?" "Dad left the mediation binder in his home office." "That was private." "I know." "Then you should not have read it." "I know." "At least he was honest." "What did you learn?" "That Harbor Line paid part of the access costs because your manager should have verified authority." "Yes." "That Dad dropped the partnership claim." "Yes." "That Mara admitted she told him he could probably count on you." "Yes." He looked down. "So it wasn't one person?" "No." That was the most adult answer available. He nodded. Then said. "I still want the job." I handed the application back. "HR decides apprenticeships." His face fell. Then I added. "And you'll get the same interview as everyone else." He looked up. "That's it? That's more than you had 5 minutes ago." He smiled. "Thanks. Don't thank me yet." He turned to leave. Then stopped. Owen? Yes? About the boat. I felt my chest tighten. You don't need to. I know. He faced me. I remember you saying it wasn't my fault. It wasn't. I believed you. Good. Then. But I still remember you standing in the water when we pulled away. I said nothing. Mara was staring at you. Yes. She looked scared. She probably was. I asked Captain Boone if we could go back. I had never known that. What did he say? That the sector had been closed and he had orders to return to Station 2. That sounds right. I kept asking. Why? Noah shrugged. Because I thought adults were supposed to fix bad decisions. That hurt more than anything else he could have said. He continued. When nobody went back, I realized sometimes they just don't. Then he left. Harborline hired him 3 weeks later. Not because of me. HR scored him 5th out of 12 applicants. We had 6 positions. Caleb accused me of creating mathematically convenient neutrality. I told him to shut up. Noah started on Monday. 7 a.m. Late by 3 minutes. Our maintenance supervisor, Felix Ortega, sent him home. Noah called me. He sent me home. You were late. 3 minutes. Yes. I thought apprentices got a warning. Apparently not. Can you talk to him? No. Silence. Then. Told me he had just discovered what working for me did not mean. Good. He came back Tuesday at 6:42. Never late again. For the first 2 months, I barely interacted with him. Also deliberate. He cleaned bilges. Changed filters. Pressure washed decks. Logged parts. Learned diesel systems. Made mistakes. Got yelled at. Got better. Nobody called him Adrian Vale's son. Nobody called him the kid from the rescue boat. He was Noah. Eventually, that mattered more. Mara found out in April. She came to Harborline for a quarterly contract review and saw him carrying a toolbox across the yard. She stopped walking. Noah stopped too. Neither knew what to do. Then Mara smiled. You work here? Apparently. She looked at me. You hired him? HR did. That distinction made her laugh. Of course. Noah looked nervous. Mara asked. Do you like it? So far. Felix still terrifying? Yes. Good. Then she did something I did not expect. Nothing else. No protective questions. No warning me to keep him away from dangerous jobs. No checking whether Adrian approved. No treating Noah as hers to manage. She simply said, "Good luck," and walked into the conference room. Afterward, I asked. That was restrained. I nearly failed. I noticed. I wanted to ask what jobs he's allowed to do. I know. Whether he has water survival training. I know. Whether you're making him work nights. Yes. She smiled faintly. Then I remembered he works for Harborline. Correct. And he's 18. Also correct. So I kept walking. Impressive. Please applaud. No. She laughed. That had become our relationship. Almost friendly. Still married legally. Still separated. Neither of us had filed. The year lease on Mara's apartment reached month 9 before either of us acknowledged that avoiding a decision was becoming a decision. She asked me to dinner. Neutral restaurant. No city business. No Harborline. We sat near the window overlooking the marina. She ordered salmon. I ordered steak. For 10 minutes we discussed normal things. Caleb's emergency services division. Her department's new rescue boat finally approved by council. Noah's apprenticeship. Then Mara put down her fork. We need to stop doing this. What? Being almost divorced because neither of us wants to be the one who files. She was right. I had known for months. Maybe she had too. You want a divorce? She looked at me. I want to come home. That was not the answer. She knew it. I still do. I waited. But I don't think that means I should. There it was. Why? Because when I imagine coming home, I'm imagining getting back the parts of my life I miss. You. The house. Dinner. Harborline people treating me like family. The marina. Knowing what your crews are doing. She laughed sadly. Even Caleb being rude to me. He can provide that after divorce. Generous. Then she became serious. I don't know whether I miss the marriage or the access. That was painfully honest. I think both. Probably. And you? I did not need long. I miss you. Her eyes filled. But I don't miss being useful to you. That hurt her. I saw it. Still said it. I don't miss wondering whether every favor becomes precedent. She nodded. I don't miss hearing Adrian's name and wondering what you already promised him. Yes. I don't miss being the person you assume can take the hit because I'm stronger. A tear slipped down her cheek. I know. I continued. And I don't want to spend the next 10 years measuring whether you've changed enough. That would be awful. For both of us. Yes. She looked down. Then. So we end it. Not a question. I nodded. Yes. Mara cried. So did I. No triumph. No revenge. Just the moment when two people admitted love had survived longer than trust. We stayed at the table another hour. Not negotiating property. Remembering. The first firehouse barbecue where she spilled beer on my shirt. Our wedding. The time Harborline's old tug lost steering and Mara came out with a rescue crew even though there was no fire department reason for her to be there. Her promotion ceremony. My father's funeral. Noah's first hockey game she dragged me to. Good memories. Real memories. They did not become false because the marriage ended. That mattered to both of us. Our lawyers handled the rest. House sold. Equity divided. Retirement accounts separated according to state law. Harborline stayed mine and Caleb's. Mara had never held equity. That fact had once seemed technical. Now it felt like the line we should have respected all along. No claim against my company. No fight over future contracts. No attempt to value every unpaid service I had ever provided Bayhaven as marital contribution. Clean. Then came one strange dispute. The rescue boat. Not the physical boat. A photograph. Taken years earlier. Mara standing at the wheel of Harborline Boat 2 during one of the first flood training days after she became chief. Me beside her. Both laughing. She wanted it. So did I. We had only one print. I told her. Take it. She looked surprised. Why? Because you should remember when the boat was just a boat. That broke her. She pressed the photograph against her chest and cried. I almost changed my mind about everything. Almost. That is the dangerous part about endings. A person can become exactly vulnerable enough to make you forget why you needed one. Then she wiped her face and said, "Thank you." No argument. No request. And the moment passed. The divorce hearing was scheduled for August. 3 weeks before it, Adrian came to Harborline. Security stopped him at the gate. Good. He called Noah. Noah refused to come out. Then Adrian called me. I answered. What? You've turned my son against me. No. He works for you. Yes. He barely comes home. He's 18. He thinks you're some kind of saint because you didn't blame him for the boat. I'm hanging up. Wait. Something in his voice stopped me. Not anger. Fear. Noah is moving out. That's between you and him. He's renting a room with 2 other apprentices. Sounds normal. He says he doesn't want to work for Vale Coastal. Also his choice. You think I don't know why? I stayed silent. Adrian continued. He thinks I used Mara. Did you? That's not the point. It is probably part of his. I made one bad business decision. You built a bid on assets you didn't control. And lost millions for it. You lost a bid. Because of you. No. My voice stayed calm. Because County asked whether the resources were actually yours. He cursed. Then. You got everything. I almost laughed. What? Mara lost access to your company. I lost my marriage. My county work collapsed. You still have a company. My son works for you. I didn't recruit him. You always come out clean. That angered me. Not because it was insulting. Because it erased the cost. I looked through my office window. Noah was on the far dock with Felix, learning to troubleshoot a hydraulic winch. I stood in floodwater after my wife ordered me off a boat. Silence. I spent months finding out my marriage had been used as an emergency services agreement. Silence. I'm getting divorced. Nothing. So don't tell me I got everything. Adrian finally said. Then what did you get? I looked at the new Harborline contract file on my desk. At the visitor policy. At the county agreements. At a company that now knew exactly where generosity ended and obligation began. Ownership of my own yes. He said nothing. Then I hung up. That afternoon, Noah found me near the fuel dock. My dad called you. Yes. Sorry. Not your responsibility. I know. Good. He was learning. Then. He thinks you took everything from Mara. I laughed softly. Your father likes dramatic accounting. What actually happened? I thought about the question. Mara still has her job. Her salary. Her retirement. Her apartment. Her friends. Her reputation took a hit, but she rebuilt some of it. Her department works. She has plenty. Noah nodded. So what did she lose? I looked toward the water. The things she thought would always be available because I loved her. He understood. Maybe too well for 18. Then he asked. Is that why you're divorcing? Yes. He looked sad. I hoped you wouldn't. Why? Because she loves you. I know. That sounds messed up. It is. He considered that. Then. Can love not be enough? No. I wish somebody had told all of us that years earlier. The rescue boat did not end my marriage. Neither did Adrian. Neither did the lease. Neither did the county bid. What ended it was realizing Mara had spent years turning love into assumed access. And once I took that access back, neither of us knew how to return to the marriage without rebuilding the very arrangement that had broken it. Our divorce hearing was 3 weeks away. Then Hurricane Felix's replacement storm formed in the Atlantic. Tropical Storm Grace. Forecast models shifted west. 3 days later, Bayhaven entered the edge of the cone. For the first time since the night Mara kicked me out of the last rescue boat, another major storm was heading toward our city. Only now Mara did not have my company hidden inside her emergency plan. She had one contract. One dedicated harbor line boat. A new city rescue vessel. County mutual aid. Written activation procedures. Actual limits. And one chance to prove that the fire department she rebuilt could survive the storm without needing her husband to save what she had failed to secure. Grace reached hurricane strength 48 hours before landfall. Not Felix. Smaller storm. Faster moving. Still enough to put 3 feet of surge into the lowest parts of Bayhaven if the track held. The city activated its new flood plan at 6 a.m. I received the harbor line notice at 6:07. Not from Mara. From the Emergency Operations Center. Municipal Contract Activation, Level 2. 1 dedicated harbor line rescue boat. 1 backup vessel on 4-hour readiness. 2 qualified operators. Fuel support according to contract. Additional assets only by written request from Incident Command. I read it twice. Then smiled. Caleb looked over my shoulder. That romantic? Beautiful. It's an activation notice. Exactly. For the first time, Bayhaven was preparing for a hurricane without a single line that meant. Owen will probably handle it. The city had purchased its own new shallow water rescue boat 2 months earlier. County Emergency Management staged 2 high water trucks. The Port Authority prepositioned foam and fuel. Mutual aid crews arrived from 2 inland departments. Harbor line was one defined piece of the plan. Not the hidden foundation. Mara spent the day at emergency operations. I spent mine at harbor line. We did not speak. At noon, Noah came into my office. Felix says I'm assigned to maintenance support. Correct. I have water rescue certification now. Basic. I could crew boat 10. No. His jaw tightened. Why? Because your apprenticeship doesn't include storm command qualification yet. I've got more boat hours than Noah. He stopped. This isn't about your father. I didn't say it was. Or Mara. I know. Or the last storm. I know. It's because Felix Ortega says you're maintenance support. He stared at me. Then nodded. Okay. That mattered. A year ago, everyone in our story had been treating personal relationships like substitutes for authority. Now Noah wanted something from me and got the same answer any apprentice would. No. And survived it. Grace came ashore after midnight. By 1:30, the South Drainage District flooded. At 2:10, Bayhaven Fire requested Harborline's backup boat. Written authorization. Correct rate. Correct chain. We launched. At 2:47, the city requested 2 additional pumps. We had them available. Approved. Sent. At 3:25, County asked for a Harborline workboat to clear floating debris near the Route 9 culvert. Different contract. Different authorization. Caleb handled it. No one called my personal phone asking for a favor. That sounds small. It wasn't. The entire city was learning how to survive without favors disguised as infrastructure. At 4:18, Mara finally called me. I stared at her name. Then answered. Chief. Owen. Her voice was calm. Professional. We have a problem at South Haven Senior Center. I pulled up the operations map. Go. City Boat 2 lost propulsion after taking debris into the intake. People aboard? 5 residents, 3 firefighters. Current location? Mercer and South. That's inside Harbor Line contract zone. I know. Do you need another vessel? Yes. Formal request. Already transmitted. I checked the dispatch screen. There it was. Approved 30 seconds earlier. Boat 8 is closest. ETA? 11 minutes. A pause. Then Mara said. Thank you. Contract says 12. I'm thanking you for 11. I almost laughed. Then I heard something behind her. Shouting. Radio traffic. What's happening? Another evacuation. Where are you? Same sector. My chest tightened. You're in the field? Yes. You're fire chief. And incident command has a deputy. Old instinct told me to argue. New reality told me it was not my command. So I asked. Anything Harbor Line needs to know? No. Then do your job. You too. We hung up. At 5:03, the South Haven boat reached safety. At 5:19, Grace's outer eyewall passed west of downtown. By 6, winds began dropping. Then came the call everyone feared. A roof collapse on Cedar Lane. 4 people trapped in an attic above floodwater. One was a pregnant woman. Another was 79. Bayhaven's new rescue boat reached them first. Harbor Line Boat 8 arrived 6 minutes later. I watched through dispatch cameras. Mara was there. Not because she had commandeered a boat. She had ridden with her department's own crew. The attic window was too narrow. Firefighters cut through siding. One resident transferred. Then another. Then the older man. Then the pregnant woman. The city boat was at safe capacity. Boat 8 had room. Plenty of room. No last seat crisis. No dramatic choice. Because this time the city had enough assets. That was the point. Mara climbed onto Boat 8 after the civilians were transferred. The crew chief logged her as fire command passenger. Nobody got thrown out. Nobody had to prove who mattered more. I sat in Harbor Line operations staring at that screen longer than necessary. Caleb saw me. You okay? Yes. You look weird. I'm watching competent procurement. That's serious? Extremely. By noon, Grace moved north. Bayhaven flooded. Power failed in 2 districts. Several homes were damaged. But no fatalities. No one was stranded overnight in harbor sector. No emergency plan quietly depended on my marriage. The city used what it owned. Requested what it had contracted. Admitted what it did not have. And filled gaps through mutual aid. That evening, Mara came to Harbor Line. She stopped at security. Waited. The guard called my office. That had never happened before. Felix. Chief Keene is here to return city equipment logs. Send her to operations. She entered carrying a waterproof folder. No special access. No assumption that being my wife meant she could walk anywhere. She put the folder down. All Harbor Line assets accounted for. Damage? Boat 8 took a bent rail. Our crew reported it. City firefighter slipped during transfer. Injury? Bruised shoulder. Okay. She looked exhausted. Then smiled. We did it. Yes. She shook her head. No. Bayhaven did. That correction mattered. She sat across from me. I kept waiting for something to fail because I couldn't call you privately. Something did fail. City Boat 2. And? We followed the plan. Exactly. She laughed softly. I hated every minute of it. Good systems are often less emotionally satisfying. That should be on the city seal. Then she looked at me. Do you know what I thought when Cedar Lane came in? What? We don't have enough. I waited. Then Grant read back the available resources. City Boat. Harbor Line under contract. County Truck. Mutual aid. She nodded. We had enough. Yes. I just didn't personally control all of it. There it was. The final distinction. Readiness was not ownership. Leadership was not possession. Help could exist without belonging to you. Mara looked down. I think I finally understand what I did to you. I said nothing. When I put Noah on the last boat, I thought I was using the strongest available resource. Her eyes met mine. You. The sentence hurt less now. Maybe because we had already named it. I thought strength meant spare capacity. It doesn't. No. She breathed out. It means there's a limit you have to respect even if you can't see it. Yes. 3 weeks later, we divorced. No dramatic courtroom scene. No last-minute objection. No one ran down a hallway. The judge reviewed the agreement. Asked whether both of us entered voluntarily. We said yes. Signed. Done. Outside, Mara and I stood under a clear September sky. No hurricane. No cameras. No fire truck. No harbor line boat. She smiled faintly. So that's it. That's it. I thought it would feel bigger. So did I. She held out her hand. I looked at it. Then shook it. She laughed. That is aggressively formal. We've learned the value of formal agreements. Fair. Then she hugged me. I let her. For several seconds, we were husband and wife one last time in everything except law. Then we stepped apart. I hope you're happy, she said. You too. I mean it. I know. She walked toward her car. Then stopped. Owen? Yes? Thank you for not taking the boats during Felix. I frowned. I wasn't going to punish people for us. I know. That should have been obvious. It wasn't to me then. She looked toward the courthouse. I thought leaving me with nothing meant you'd take everything away. And now? She smiled sadly. You just stopped letting me count what wasn't mine. That was exactly right. A year later, Mara was still fire chief. She never ran for mayor. Bayhaven purchased a second municipal rescue boat. The department's flood plan became less dependent on Harbor Line every budget cycle. That was good for everyone. Harbor Line's emergency services division expanded into 3 counties. Not because we stopped helping. Because we finally learned how to help sustainably. Caleb became unbearable about having predicted it. Noah finished his first year of the Marine Diesel program and became one of our best apprentices. Adrian and he eventually repaired some of their relationship. Not because I intervened. Because neither of them needed me in the middle. That was also good. One afternoon, almost 2 years after Felix, I stood on Harbor Line's dock during a city training exercise. Bayhaven's own boats were in the water. Our crews were there under contract. Mara stood on the opposite dock with her captains. She saw me. Raised one hand. I raised mine. That was all. No resentment. No romance. No debt. Just 2 people on opposite sides of a working system. Behind her, the city's newest rescue boat turned cleanly through the channel. No Harbor Line logo. No favor from me. Paid for by taxpayers. Maintained by the city. Crewed by firefighters. Entirely theirs. I watched Mara look at it. She looked proud. She should have. The night Felix hit, she had kicked me off the last rescue boat because she believed I was the person who could survive being left behind. Then I pulled back every invisible support she had mistaken for hers. The free boats. The automatic access. The private favors. The assumption that my company would cover whatever her budget did not. The belief that my love meant she could spend my risk without asking. People later said I left her with nothing. They were wrong. I left her with exactly what she actually owned. Her badge. Her skill. Her department. Her decisions. Her consequences. And the chance to build something that no longer depended on me saying yes. As for me, I got something back too. Not the boat seat. Not the marriage. Something better. The right to decide what I gave before anyone else promised it. The right to help without being owned by my usefulness. The right to say no without becoming the villain. And the certainty that the people who truly valued what I offered would ask before they counted it. On the far dock, Mara gave an order. Her rescue boat accelerated into the channel. This time, when it left without me, I was exactly where I had chosen to be. That's all for today. Remember to subscribe and support us.